There are moments in life when everything that once felt solid begins to crumble. The career you built, the relationships you trusted, the beliefs you carried like a compass, all suddenly feel foreign, weightless, or worse, meaningless. You find yourself in a strange in-between, where the past no longer holds you, but the future refuses to reveal itself. This is what mystics call the dark night of the soul. And while the term has religious origins, Carl Jung saw it as a deeply psychological and spiritual event, not a failure, but a passage. Not a breakdown, but a breakthrough in disguise. In such nights, the soul is not lost. It is shedding skin. It is withdrawing from all the false structures, all the borrowed truths, all the masks you once thought were you. The light doesn't disappear to punish you. It disappears so you stop chasing reflections and turn inward, toward the real source. You may still go through your daily motions, go to work, talk to friends, even smile. But inside, something has shifted. There's a quiet ache, a feeling that the world has lost its flavor. You might lie awake at night, not from anxiety, but from an unsettling silence within. Jung believed that such moments of emptiness often signal the beginning of transformation. Like the cocoon stage for the butterfly, everything must dissolve before something new can be born. The light you're missing may not be gone forever. It may simply be calling you to find it in a different place. And that place is not out there, but within. The dark night is not a curse. It's an invitation to stop pretending and to finally begin. Jung believed that every person wears a persona, a mask shaped by the demands of society, family, and culture. It's the face we present to the world, the one that gets us approval, connection, and safety. But in the dark night, this mask begins to fall. Not because we want it to, but because the soul refuses to keep playing a role that no longer fits. You may begin to feel like a stranger in your own life. You might say, "I don't know who I am anymore." That terrifying loss of identity is actually the first step toward finding a more authentic self. As Jung said, in each of us there is another whom we do not know. He speaks to us in dreams and tells us how differently he sees us from how we see ourselves. The dark night strips away your false self, so your real self can speak. This collapse is disorienting, especially if you've spent years building your identity around success, likability, or responsibility. You may feel ashamed of not holding it all together. But what's really happening is a quiet rebellion of the soul. It refuses to keep performing, smiling, producing, when it's exhausted and unseen. In our video, The Persona Trap, How Social Masks Keep You from Your True Self, we explore how the persona becomes a prison over time. The dark night can feel brutal, but in truth, it's merciful. It removes the weight of pretense and gives you the chance to meet yourself, without the costume. When the persona shatters, the silence that follows can feel unbearable. But it is also honest, and in that honesty healing begins. One of the most haunting parts of this crisis is the confrontation with your own shadow, the part of yourself you've denied, repressed, or disowned. In daily life, we keep it hidden beneath busyness, productivity, or distractions. But when your outer world collapses, there's nowhere left to run. You start to face the sadness you've numbed, the anger you've buried, the longing you've silenced. This descent is not pleasant. It is raw, confusing, and disorienting. But Jung taught that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Until we face our own shadow, we remain split, unwhole, and endlessly haunted by what we refuse to see. The dark night brings the shadow to the surface, not to destroy you, but to integrate you. This process is humbling. You realize that parts of you you've judged in others, you also carry. You may relive painful memories, confront guilt, or experience intense inner resistance, but each layer peeled back reveals another layer of truth. The ego resists this descent. It wants to stay in control. But the soul wants wholeness, not comfort. In the shadow lies not just pain but lost creativity, power, and passion. As you begin to reclaim those pieces, you also begin to reclaim yourself. Our video, Face Your Shadow, Carl Jung's secret to becoming whole dives deeper into this essential stage of healing. Perhaps the most painful part of the dark night is the death of meaning. What once gave your life purpose now feels empty. You might question everything. Why am I here? What's the point? Who am I doing all this for? Jung called this the midlife crisis of the soul, not defined by age, but by the collapse of previous structures of identity. In our earlier years, we chase achievement, status, or belonging. But there comes a time when the soul whispers, "This is not enough." The goals we once thought were ours begin to feel borrowed. The ladder we were climbing turns out to be against the wrong wall. This death of old meaning is not nihilism. It is a cleansing, a necessary emptiness, making room for a deeper, more personal truth to emerge. You might feel tempted to fill the void with new distractions, a new job, a new partner, a new belief system. But the dark night is asking you not to rush, but to stay, to sit in the discomfort of not knowing. This is where a new kind of meaning begins to take shape, one not handed to you by culture, but forged in the fire of your own experience. You begin to ask different questions. What nourishes me? What is true for me? Not just what is expected. The soul is not interested in comfort. It is interested in truth. And sometimes, truth first arrives in silence. That silence is sacred, even if it scares you. In the silence that follows collapse, something curious begins to happen. Jung believed that during these inward journeys, men often encounter their inner feminine, the anima, while women meet their inner masculine, the animus. These are not just gendered images, but deep archetypal forces. They carry intuition, imagination, creativity, and the wisdom of the unconscious. During the dark night, these figures often appear in dreams, fantasies, or symbols. A mysterious woman in a forest, a wise man offering guidance. These are not distractions. They are messages from your deeper self, guiding you back to your essence. To ignore these visitors is to miss the whispers of your soul. To listen to them is to begin a new dialogue with life, one rooted not in ego but in inner truth. At first, you may dismiss these figures as illusions or psychological tricks, but Jung saw them as essential guides in the individuation process. They help you reconnect with parts of yourself that have long been neglected: your imagination, emotional depth, intuitive knowing. They also challenge your relationship with love, power, and inner authority. Meeting the anima or animus is a kind of sacred romance with the soul itself. They hold up a mirror not just to who you are, but to who you could become. In How Carl Jung Explained Attraction Between People, Anima and Animus, we explore how these inner figures shape not only your dreams, but your relationships. To meet them is to step into mystery, but also into truth. Jung was deeply inspired by alchemy and saw suffering as the fire that transforms the lead of the false self into the gold of the true self. In the dark night, you are in the crucible, burned by confusion, melted by grief, pressured by the unknown, but something is being forged, something essential. It is through suffering that we are softened enough to change. Through tears, we are cleansed of illusions. Through despair, we finally let go of control. The dark night doesn't destroy you, it purifies you. You might resist it at first, clinging to the fragments of your old identity, but little by little, the soul teaches you surrender. It teaches you that pain is not the enemy, avoidance is. When you stop fighting what you feel, you begin to feel something new. Presence. It doesn't come all at once, but it comes with honesty, with stillness, with humility. Jung believed that the most profound transformation begins not with answers, but with deep acceptance of what is. Your suffering becomes sacred when you allow it to teach you. And what it teaches is that the soul is not fragile, it is fierce, and it knows the way. Strangely, just when you feel most lost, life begins to speak in symbols. You might notice meaningful coincidences, what Jung called synchronicities. A book falls off a shelf that speaks directly to your pain. A stranger says something you needed to hear. A dream repeats itself with unsettling clarity. These are not random. In Jungian psychology, synchronicity is the language of the unconscious, trying to guide you through the dark. When everything rational fails, the symbolic begins to shine. The soul uses poetry when logic breaks down, and in the darkest hour, these symbols become stars, small flickering lights that help you navigate a path that cannot be mapped. These moments may seem small, but they often strike with a quiet power. They feel personal, intimate, strangely precise. Jung taught that the psyche is not separate from the world, and that the world itself mirrors our inner state. In a way, your suffering sends out a signal, and life answers with signs. The more you trust these moments, the more they begin to appear, not as magical thinking, but as a deeper form of knowing. As you begin to live symbolically, even pain takes on meaning. For more on this mysterious guidance, revisit our video, Synchronicity, Carl Jung's Hidden Signs That Guide Your Life. If you endure the dark night without numbing it, bypassing it, or rushing to escape, something extraordinary happens. A new self is born. Not a better self, not a stronger self, but a truer one. This self doesn't need external validation. It's not based on roles, achievements, or appearances. It is rooted in being. Jung described this as the process of individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are, beyond the persona, beyond the ego. You emerge not with all the answers, but with a new relationship to the unknown. You are no longer afraid of the dark, because you've been there. You've seen that the monster in the cave was part of you, and you've brought it into the light. This new self may look quieter from the outside, but it is grounded. You no longer need to prove yourself, because you've met yourself. You don't chase wholeness, because you've tasted it. You're less reactive, more present, more compassionate, not because life got easier, but because you got deeper. You begin to trust your own rhythm. You listen more to intuition than to noise, and you realize the dark night was not an interruption. It was the initiation. The purpose of the dark night is not to become perfect, but to become whole, to make peace with the contradictions within, to embrace your shadow, your light, your past, your becoming. You no longer divide yourself into good and bad, right and wrong. You see that you are complex, mysterious, evolving. And that is not a flaw. That is your nature. Wholeness doesn't mean you're always happy. It means you're no longer at war with yourself. And that inner peace radiates outward, in how you love, how you speak, how you live. You begin to live with a deeper compassion, for others, and for yourself. You no longer chase healing as a project. You let it be a way of being. You make room for paradox, strength and softness, clarity and confusion, joy and grief. You begin to welcome all parts of you to the table. This is not self-improvement. This is self-remembering. You feel connected not just to yourself, but to something larger, to nature, to spirit, to silence. You walk slower, but see more. You love better because you've suffered deeply. The dark night is not a detour. It is the path. It doesn't come to break you, but to break open the shell you mistook for yourself. You may lose friends, you may leave jobs, you may question everything, but what you gain is something far more precious. Your own soul. The gift of the dark night is authenticity, depth, clarity, and most of all, freedom. Freedom from illusion, freedom from fear, freedom from the need to be anything other than who you are. If you are walking through such a night now, know this. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are becoming. The road is long, but you're not walking it blindly. You're being shaped by it. And in time, you will thank the darkness for showing you the stars. What once felt like death will become your rebirth. You will carry this depth into every room, every touch, every silence. You will recognize others who have walked this path by the gentleness in their eyes. The dark night initiates you into your true life. And when you finally emerge, you won't be the same. You'll be more you than you've ever been. If this video touched something in you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps others find their way through the dark and reminds them transformation is possible, even when all the lights go out.